What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And once again, we have an album review for you, and one that was on my list, and one that seems to be, getting a fair amount of buzz, and also one that got requested a little bit in the comments. So today, we are going over the latest offering from Lamp of Murmuur, The Dreaming Prince in Ecstasy. I'm at least 70% sure this is not about wet dreams, but again, I'm just 70% sure. Either way, this also comes out on the 14th of November on Wolves of Hades Records. This band formed in 2019 in Washington, and then has since moved to LA. This is their fourth full length, and there it's kind of odd because this is a one-man band, but since the band has a name and it's not a person's name, I'm probably just going to say they a lot. Regardless, this is the first time I have ever sat down and listened to any of this guy's work in terms of like studio offerings. I did see this band perform at Decibel, the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest last year. They put on a really solid show in Philly, and I didn't even know that this was a one-man band until I actually looked it up. I thought it was an actual group, but no, this is one-man black metal, but not like the one-man black metal you'd kind of expect, but maybe a little bit? I don't know.
I've never heard of this band. I've never heard of this guy. I've never heard any of this until today. So, I mean, big shocker, right? That seems to be a going thing for me on this channel. I wonder if Jammin John's heard it. No, he hasn't, because he lives in a fucking box.
I mean, to be fair, I had this band confused with Lurker of Chalice. I mean, it's kind of a similar name-ish.
Yeah, I mean, Lamp of Murmuur, Lurker of Chalice. Sure, totally same thing, right?
And, I mean, let's be honest, like, a lot of the times when you don't know what it is, sometimes those surprises are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
How's that 1914 treating you?
Dude, that record whoops unholy ass. I've jammed that record 3 or 4 times today. I can't wait to see that at MDF. I can't. It's going to be badass. But we're not talking about that.
Yeah, we're talking about some evil, dark, spooky black metal. And again, I just had a live performance to kind of base this on, which again, their performance was solid, but I knew none of the material. It was about atmosphere, it was about, tremolos, it was cold, it was dark, it was grim, but it was also very riffy. And from what I gather, that's been kind of a recent turn. Like their first 2 albums were way more on the atmospheric side. And then their last album before this one, they decided to show off that they are giant fans of Immortal and like early Satyricon, and really kind of just brought like that old school sound, but with riffs. And this is kind of a continuation of that, I guess. Again, I haven't listened to that album, but there's a lot more going on here than just like a lot of like old school black metal worship. Like, it definitely has that vibe. The production here is, I wouldn't call it raw. I would call it rare. Like it's little cooked. Like, it's mixed a little bit, to the point where things are separated and not overly muddy, but it's very dense, it's very fuzzy, it's very cold sounding.
I mean, yeah, it's a bit muddy, but there's a ton of layers here. I mean, you got one dude, so naturally you want to fill the sound as much as possible. I mean, I would assume that was his goal, and he did a good job of that. Like, there's not a lot of open space going on here.
Now this kicks off with an intro, and generally intros now, we've been over this. Fires of Sedition. I kind of like this just because of the tone of it, because it reminds me of horror movie trailers from the 80s. Mm-hmm. Like this was like the perfect score for, I don't know, Friday the 13th part 25, get the fuck out of my camp and quit fornicating. That's like the subtitle. I mean, if Jason could actually talk, he'd probably say that. But that intro gives way to the first actual track, Forest of Hallucinations, which is a 9-minute banger. This thing is huge, and much like I kind of expected, at least from what people were telling me, chock full of riffs. I like the fact that this does have a fiercely old school sound. Like, this does sound like 90s black metal. But it doesn't just drone on tremolos. This is played out riff city. Like, there's tons going on here as far as like stylistic shifts, adding clever tags, great harmonies on here, tons of killer harmonies, and stuff that is kind of off the black metal map a little bit.
See, now, I can't say things like that. Not yet, anyway. I mean, I've jammed my fair share, I think, of black metal now over the years, but to me, still, that's not like my main repertoire as far as metal is concerned. So I can't say what it has and doesn't have as far as new flavor or old flavor. All I can say is catchy riffs for sure. In fact, the first riff that actually does hit the page is a big syncopated machine gun riff, which I'm a big fan of. So yeah, riffier black metal for me seems to be the way to go, and it definitely has that, and they're very catchy too.
Yeah, like, and again, like, wide-reaching, like, Forest of Hallucinations, I'll be honest, that first harmony comes in, and it's kind of a toss-up in my brain between whether it sounds like an old-school Slayer harmony, like a very Jeff Hanneman-esque one, or it sounds like Ghost's Circe, which it's kind of close. It even has that stomping rhythm at first, like, oh shit, all right. But here's the thing. Melody is a big part of this. In fact, there's a lot more melody than I expected. This album is pretty damn catchy. When you get down to songs like Reincarnation of a Witch and Hate Gate, the Dream Master's Realm, which I don't think that's a Nightmare on Elm Street reference, but if it is, cool, I'm down. These songs are riffy fun, like lots of clever changes in here, a little bit less in the way of synths. The atmosphere in here, it's mostly driven by the guitars. And again, like that frequent layering, the guitar tone on here is it's very buzzy and grainy, but I kind of like it. Again, it gives it that old school, grimy kind of feel. The drums sound a little bit muffled. The bass, it's got like a bit of a sizzle to it.
A little bit. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot by way of bass per se. Like, I mean, I could definitely hear it, a low-end presence of, a bass, but like, it wasn't until you get into the three-part title thingy that's going on here. There's 3 songs that have the title in them and then some other parts, and it wasn't until you get that 3-song run where in one of the songs there is like an audible bass jam, and I mean that was cool, but that's not really a focal point.
Also I feel like the bass kind of occupies almost the same space as the vocals, which the vocals are hyper distorted, kind of like this audible din grumble in the background. I mean, occasionally I can make out words. Most of the time, it's just.
Yep.
But, okay, cool. Thank you, Satan.
I like the comparison you made. I don't know if you remember what you said, but the comparison you made to the vocals sounds like the guy's chewing on a lapel mic.
Dude, it kind of does. But I mean, it occupies the same space as the bass does. And, honestly, it might be contributing a little bit more to the atmosphere, certainly not melody-wise. But melody is, again, still all over here. Like, Reincarnation of the Witch is loaded with just classic heavy and speed metal riffs, good two-steps. They're very energetic. They're very just infectiously catchy. And here's the thing, like, at this point in the album, I'm like, this doesn't feel evil. Like, for a corpse-painted band and all that shit, and especially like one-man black metal, like, I was kind of waiting for like a moment in here that was like, oh, this sounds dark and grim and evil. A lot of this is very spooky but playful.
Yeah, like, well, in Reincarnation of a Witch, there's a part towards the end of the song where it has clean guitars, and like I really like the tone for these clean guitars, but the melody he has is kind of haunting. That was really the only time I really said anything like, hey, this sounds evil. Hate Gate, the Dream Master's Realm, I also thought was heavier per se. Definitely like some sinister melodies, but nothing I would say like, man, that's summoning Satan. Not so much of that.
Again, like heavy, like, I don't know, like Midnight. Like, it has like a little bit of that kind of like charm to it. And again, like most of the vocals on here are that hyper distorted growl, but as the album went on, we started hearing clean vocals. And I'll be honest, dude whose name is M on here, he sounds a lot like Johannes from Tribulation, especially off that last album. Like, he has that gothic swagger to his voice, and he uses it really effectively, and as the album went on, he uses it even more. And it became kind of a thing that I fixated on, because when it shows up, it's just delightfully dark and just, but like tuneful, and I don't know, it feels, I don't know, like it has like a completely different texture, and it changes the music around it too. Now this kind of has like a two-side thing. Like, in side 2, I believe would start with Angelic Vortex, which is a transitional track. It's atmospheric, a lot of synths, a lot of guitars. Honestly, it sounded like, again, like a teaser trailer, something very like Full Moon Entertainment, like, got Puppet Master and all that shit. I know, I love those movies. But then we get into the 3-part suite for the title track. And it's, the title track, and then part 1 is Moondance, part 2, Twilight Orgasm. Good time as any to have one. And then part 3, The Fall. And all these songs are vastly different. The big standout for me is part 2, Twilight Orgasm, not because the title's funny and I kind of giggled a little bit when I wrote it down because I have the maturity of a 16-year-old.
Sure.
But because, oh my God, it's one of the catchiest goth rock songs I've heard this year.
Mm-hmm.
A steady buildup of clean guitars. It feels like you walked into a seedy basement club. It's dimly lit except for a couple of green lights. There's a band playing and a handful of people. The band's wearing sunglasses. It's fucking dark in there. They're all wearing leather jackets. It's disgustingly hot in there, and it smells like clove smoke and sweaty leather. But they're playing this kick-ass song, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have a beer.
Yeah.
And just watch this.
It's probably actually one of my favorite jams on the record, and it's mostly because it is so different. There's nothing else on this record that really comes close to that, and the fact that a majority of it is fairly simplistic.
It's a steady build on the same melody. Like, it's almost kind of like that post-rock sort of build where you kind of just start with, like, the bare bones and you keep layering it as it goes on. It builds into this just absolutely dark, velvety track.
Yeah.
I fucking dig the fuck out of it. But again, the title track is like a whole sweet thing, and all three parts of it are really cool. Moondance, I mean, it doesn't lie. It's the most danceable track in there. You get these big machine gun riffs on top of a danceable rhythm. Like, that's, kind of like an Ozzy thing right there. Of course, it's dark and dreary. You have the harsh vocals and clean vocals, but it's a boogie. Like, you get that dancing hi-hat effect. Like, it's kind of goth disco.
Yeah. It's got a machine gun riff over it, but I mean, it's the whole, like, boom, chop, boom, chop. I enjoyed it.
And before I talk about the last part of the title track, I gotta say the closing track on here, A Brute Angel's Sorrow, I think is like this kind of like dismal, dark, almost Christmas jam. Like, it has that kind of chiming bell synth effect. You have heavy strummed guitars, the gothic deep crooning again. I think there's another singer in there harmonizing with them, either that or it's just like a layered vocal effect.
I can't tell.
I couldn't tell, but it has like a dark kind of like Christmas sort of vibe. Like, I swear, if you went to a mall and fucking slipped this on, like the PA that plays over like every fucking major store, like all the fucking anchor stores in the mall, if you still go to those horrible buildings, you could slip this in the rotation with like silver bells and white Christmas, and people would just go, it's definitely Christmas. It's fine. But that's how the album closes. But we didn't talk about the third part of the title track. And this is where some of the negatives start to show. I mean, they kind of did show a little bit earlier on, but this is where I really kind of focused on them. I don't think this is necessarily a bad song, but I think this is a very long song. And it's a few seconds shorter than Forest of Hallucinations, but it feels like it's about 3.5 minutes longer.
Yeah, it's not that it's not cool. Once again, it's got a bunch of sweet riffs in it. A bunch of lead work in here, too. The leads don't pop up frequently on this record. If they do, they're buried. Like, there were a couple times that I thought I heard leads, but I wasn't 100%. In the last part of the three-part series, The Fall, there's, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 leads at least, and they're all really good. Like, but god damn it, man, you get into the 6-7 minute territory and there's no change up on the melody, there's no change up on the riff, and you're just like, okay, all right, do something else. No? Okay.
They do eventually change up, but I mean, at that point, like, it kind of comes a little bit late, and they kind of return to like a couple of key parts and kind of drone on them. The whole song, like, it feels like, like kind of like a tribute to an Immortal song. Like, they went from like a goth rock song with tons of atmosphere, great hooks, to an arguably pretty decent Immortal song that sounds like it's about, trudging through the snow and fucking fighting trolls or ice giants or villagers, I don't know, whoever just was in front of them. But the whole thing kind of feels like a tribute. Like, it feels like a tribute to that style of song. Like, it's the mid-tempo epic. Like, it's the song that sounds, I have to go through my like Rolodex of Immortal songs, like Tyrants or something like that. Like, it's the one that's like, all right, this is where they're not blasting, it's not thrashy, it's charge forward, and yeah, like, it's cool and all. It's got some cool thrashy parts that reminded me of, Skeleton Witch, but it kind of just draws out these moments too much. And that is kind of an issue on some of these songs in the album. Force of Hallucinations, while I do like it, it does feel a little bit long. There are points where, like, I kind of give you that false ending kind of feel. Like, all right, could have ended there. Nope. We're going into that same riff again, aren't we? And even on some of the shorter tracks, there's just points where like, okay, I feel like we've done that part before and it was very dynamic, but the repetition of that particular moment, you're kind of like losing the impact a bit. I just feel as though if you trimmed a little bit of fat on some of these songs, because this runs a little bit under an hour, about 57 minutes, I feel like these songs would have a little bit more impact to them. But overall, this was a pretty enjoyable listen. And honestly, I'll probably pick up this album and maybe the one before just to check out what that one's all about. But yeah, overall, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. This was pretty solid. Again, like a little long in the tooth in spots, and where it drags, you can definitely feel it. But man, this is just fun riff work, man. Like just riff after riff. The atmosphere is cool. The surprisingly catchy, clean vocals on here really caught me off guard. Again, Twilight Orgasm. That's my favorite song on here. Again, there's no better time to have one. Okay, it's just pretty at that hour.
Country knows all about orgasms right now, huh?
I'm pretty sure Bill timed that one out and tapped Donnie on the head for that one. If you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. But anyway, yeah, well, John's recovering over there. This album is awesome. Like, it's got a lot of cool old school black metal charm, a lot of melody, a lot of good hooks. If you're a big fan of Immortal, and I would say Satyricon in particular, this is right up your alley. Check it out. Pretty good stuff.
So I'm going to be completely honest about all of this, because that's what I do here on this channel. I don't ever pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I was going to give it a 3, but then it moved to a 3.5, and the reason behind the 3.5 was it's riffy. I like riffier black metal. While I do like things like tremolo, definitely, I also like riffs. And this is jam-packed full of not only good riffs, but catchy riffs. Like, there were so many parts where both he and I were air guitaring, and like, that's usually a sign of a good catchy riff. One thing I can knock this on, and again, this is my own personal opinion, do whatever you want with it, I am not the biggest fan of really synthy black metal. And at least in the first actual track, Forest of Hallucinations, that's a lot of synths. And like, I was thinking to myself, like, man, if this is all synths, I'm not gonna dig this at all. As you get more into the record, the synths kind of take a little bit of a back seat, and the guitar definitely comes in and plays a lot more. I like that when he does use tremolos, they're not like the typical like droning black metal tremolos. Like, you either get some sort of like mid-range, or sometimes they harmonize, sometimes they act as a counter harmony under the melody, which just, there's a lot of like odd harmony choices in here that I thought were really cool too. Well, personally, I would have asked for things like this to be a little bit more evil or a little bit more sinister. Again, these are things that just I've found once again in my journey that I really like, really evil sounding music, and it's not so much of that, but I mean, it was still cool. I went into it thinking I wasn't gonna like it, and I ended up not hating it because it's pretty entertaining. I don't know if this guy typically wrote longer songs or not. Like, we haven't really dove into it to figure it out, but like, yeah, it drug a little bit, but he did all right in all. I don't know what to compare this to because I don't know what to compare it to, so I'm just gonna say Immortal because Nick said Immortal. Now, we are gonna rank that discography, so I'm sure all of that will make sense in due time. But yeah, if you're into stuff like that, or you've been a fan of this band, give it a whirl for yourself.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They're only 99 cents, and Lone Perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we'll probably be doing sometime around Thanksgiving, before, I don't know. We'll figure it out, and we will let you know. Either way, membership is the main way to support the channel, and if you would like to join up, there's a join button down there, and you can just go ahead and just go right down on it like a certain political figure did to another political figure, theoretically.
Even if you choose not to go down on the join button, it's okay, because we do tons of non-member only stuff. We do a non-members only live stream. We do discography rankings, album reviews, Nick's collection updates, tons of discussion forums. We are pretty much all metal all the time, and we do that for you guys because we fucking like you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support in this channel. It means the absolute world to us. I can't believe that our numbers continue to grow, but they do. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you, and we will catch you later.